Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. We would like to thank the organization of the event for all the support, and we would like to greet our colleagues for sharing this session with us. It is an honor to participate in this Congress with you. And finally, thank you everyone who have taken their time to watch us here today. Hopefully you are all safe in your way to get vaccinated. My name is Marina, and currently I'm a PhD candidate in political science at the University of Brasilia.
Hello, everyone. I reaffirm everything that Marina said. I hope that you are all healthy and if not vaccinated, on the verge of being vaccinated. I am Teresa Ruas. I am a doctoral candidate in sociology at the Universidade of Sergipe at Prism. Well, the work that we'll be presenting today is called Auxílio Emergencial in Brazil, Building Advocacy Coalitions for a Future Basic Income Policy. And the question that we tried to answer was, have new coalitions of actors emerged during the Auxílio Emergencial? Does any of them advocate implementing a basic income policy in Brazil? And with that purpose, we identified the advocacy coalitions involved in Auxílio Emergencial. We also described those coalitions' beliefs and goals and identified points of convergence and divergence among those coalitions. And here is important to emphasize that the phenomenon that we studied is still ongoing. So the data collection and analysis have not yet ended. But for today's presentation, we take as a basis a time lapse that starts in February of 2020 and extends until July of 2021. Our sources are public speeches in legislative houses, the Folha de São Paulo, which is one of the main newspapers with national circulation in Brazil, and parties and civil societies organizations documents. And we used NVivo 12 for content analysis.
Before we jump to our analysis, it's important to contextualize this moment in which Auxílio Emergencial took place in Brazil. Brazil is worldwide known for introducing in the last decade social policies to fight hunger, poverty, and inequality. However, in the last 5 years, we are immersed in a complex scenario. In politics, we face great instability with the rise of a far-right president, Jair Bolsonaro, who is constantly testing our institutions and flirting with authoritarianism. It combines both neoliberal and conservative political platforms. Our economy has never fully recovered the 2014-15 crisis, and we are watching the rise of unemployment, food insecurity, and poverty along the years. And in this context of emergence of a far-right president openly against social policies and of intensification of fiscal adjustment measures, there was an ongoing debate about the future of social policies. We were in the process of dismantling of the social policies structure created in the last decades. In this moment, this particular moment, the Auxílio Emergencial and the pandemic arrived.
The position of President Bolsonaro and his supporters, including the Minister of Health, who was in office longer during the pandemic, Eduardo Pazuello, was of extreme denial. Thus, measures to combat the pandemic were taken in a very decentralized manner, with a major role played by state and local governments. In this scenario, the Auxílio Emergencial was the main measure to deal with the effects of the pandemic. The Auxílio Emergencial is an income transfer policy aimed at informal workers, poor and extremely poor people, and reached more than 68 million beneficiaries during the pandemic.
Here we bring some general information about the Auxílio Emergencial, this cash transfer program. In the pandemic, there has been already 3 different versions of Auxílio Emergencial, and some of its versions, the eligibility criteria have changed, the rules have changed. I just want to highlight some points that as the time passed, the value of the benefit decreased. It went from 600 reais to 105 and an average of 250 reais. And the number of beneficiaries also decreased because of the constant measures the government has employed to focalize the policy. And there was no Auxílio Emergencial from in the months of January, February, and March 2021. Well, our proposal in this paper is to analyze and identify the advocacy coalitions acting in Auxílio Emergencial. The concept of advocacy coalition comes from the advocacy coalition framework, which is a policy process framework created and developed by Sabatier and Weibel and other partners. In this framework, coalitions are collective forms to influence policy. They act in a determined policy subsystem. So, such as environmental policy is a subsystem, and in our case, cash transfer programs to fight poverty is another subsystem. And they are composed by actors, policy actors, who share policy core beliefs and coordinate their political behaviors. Each coalition is empirically found, and they have a 3-part belief subsystem composed by deep core, policy core, and secondary beliefs. It's very important to pay attention to the policy core beliefs because they are the normative and empirical beliefs concerning the policy subsystem, and they are the glue that connect different actors from legislative, from civil society, and all sorts of actors. In the literature, Tomasini has already started the work to identify advocacy coalitions in cash transfer programs, and she has identified 3 coalitions, 3 different coalitions: pro-human capital, pro-food security, and pro-unconditional income. However, during the Auxílio, and with our empirical material, we have confirmed the existence of those coalitions and found another one, a new coalition called pro-market coalition.
Well, here we are going to highlight some aspects that we found fundamental to our research. An essential element in the debate around the Auxílio Emergencial, which was decisive in the reorganization of the advocacy coalitions that are disputing its definition, was the issue of funding sources. The new pro-market coalition lobbied through all the pandemic for a restriction on the beneficiary base and the value of the Auxílio Emergencial. The members of this coalition raised the argument of austerity and the need for fiscal responsibility, placing greater emphasis on the economic crisis caused by the pandemic and subordinating the lives and health of people to the health of the economy. This coalition used the Auxílio Emergencial as a political bargaining chip to enact austerity policies that were part of Jair Bolsonaro's original government program and that were synthesized in the PEC Emergencial, which is a proposal to alter the constitution. The other 3 coalitions were against the PEC Emergencial and also the speech pulled by the pro-market coalition. but there were important divergences among the funding sources for the Auxílio Emergencial among those three coalitions. The pro-human capital defended monetarist measures, currency issuance, and state indebtedness as alternatives, while the pro-unconditional income advocacy coalition defended a tax reform, and the pro-food security didn't quite define one alternative.
In addition to what Teresa has just said, the pro-market coalition contrasts with the others also because they see inequality as something natural and then consider meritocracy to be fair. They focus on inclusion errors over exclusion errors. So during the Auxílio, the eligibility was monthly reviewed. Finally, they argued that social policies should focus on producing exit doors and productive inclusion for the people who need the most. In spite of the challenges, both pro-food security and pro-unconditional income coalitions have seen in the pandemic context an opportunity to claim for a new, more inclusive social protection system. Here is some of the conclusions we have found in our paper. The first one is about these new actors who have never participated in the debate of social policy from the inside, and they now are relevant actors and they coordinate themselves and they have a proposal. We can discuss what kind of proposal is that, but they have one, the pro-market coalition. And the question that remains unsolved is that, are they going to persist as a coalition? Are they going to implement new social protections policies? We still don't know.
And in short, an important finding of our research was that during the pandemic crisis, the food security and basic income coalitions have approximated because they have shared important beliefs at this moment. Some of them they both rejected austerity as a financing alternative. They both claimed for a stronger social protection system, and they both saw the Auxílio Emergencial as an opportunity to advocate for stronger social protection systems. And another important finding is that a new coalition has emerged, the pro-market coalition. And in short, austerity and social protection are entwined topics in Brazil, and this connection was fundamental for the emergence of a new coalition and for the rearrangement of the alliances and disputes that were previously placed at the country.
Sometimes we talk about basic income and we are always watching the national level, but basic income is back to the debate, and what is very interesting that is back to the debate at the local and regional level. So some future agenda is also look what kind of rearrangement has been made at supranational levels, because there was movement and there was some initiatives, very new initiatives in the state level and municipal level during the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you.